President-elect Catherine Connolly has pledged to be a voice for peace and an inclusive president for all. With more than double the vote of her rival Heather Humphreys, Catherine Connolly's resounding victory was confirmed at Dublin Castle earlier this evening. Speaking following the declaration at St Patrick's Hall, the independent candidate thanked her supporters while also telling those who didn't vote for her that as president she would be their voice. Well, let's take a look now at the final result from all 43 constituencies. Catherine Connolly, with 914,143 first preferences, finished on 63.4%. Heather Humphreys received 424,987 number ones, or 29.5% of the vote. Fianna Fáil's Jim Gavin, who withdrew from the campaign, was on 7.2%. The number of spoiled or invalid votes recorded came in at a massive 213,738. Turnout at 45.8% is lower than last year's general election, but despite predictions of a record low turnout, you can see it surpassed the final turnout in the 2018 presidential race. Now, in the first of our reports this evening, our political correspondent Micheál Lehane looks at how the day unfolded.
It did not take very long after the boxes opened this morning to reveal who was about to become the country's new first citizen. By tea time, Catherine Connolly was walking across the courtyard of Dublin Castle to hear the official announcement of her resounding victory.
As she has reached a quota, I hereby declare Catherine Connolly elected to the office of President of Ireland.
Having pioneered a unique movement-led style of campaigning, Catherine Connolly tonight reiterated her election pledge to be a president for all and to be a voice for those who need it most.
I will be an inclusive president for all of you, and I regard it as an absolute honour, the vote I have been given, and I will represent you nationally and internationally to the best of my ability and as professionally and as humanely as possible.
The clarity of the result was evident from early on, and Heather Humphreys graciously conceded on home soil in the early afternoon. A life beyond politics is to the forefront of her mind now.
I have a 7-week-old grandson that I really haven't seen much of, and I'm very fond of my garden, and I can assure you I have a lot of work to do because I haven't been there for well over 2 months.
For those remaining in the political field, particularly the parties who fused together to back Catherine Connolly, there is a belief that today will alter the recent political trajectory.
We have 2 objectives, I've said it all along: to keep Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael out of the Áras, to have a marvellous, independent, incredible, articulate woman in the park. We've achieved that, and the next job is to get Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael out of government.
This was a movement, it was a movement behind Catherine, but for Catherine's values on housing justice, in defence of neutrality.
After the counting concluded, it was clear that hundreds of thousands of people had spoiled their vote. But it was future votes that Catherine Connolly's supporters were focusing on.
Today can mark the beginning of a new momentum towards that centre-left-led government after the next election.
Catherine's campaign has done something really special in that it gives people hope that that change is possible.
The full impact of the vote will be parsed in the period ahead. But tonight the Taoiseach was emphasising the tenets that underpin the country's democracy.
We've one of the longest democracies in the world, and it's one that we cherish very much indeed. And the people have spoken resoundingly today, and they've given Catherine a tremendous majority and a very clear mandate.
Now the country's next president will begin preparations for a role in which she has promised to make the welfare of the people her top priority. Micheál Lehane, RTE News.
A record number of spoiled or invalid votes have been recorded, an indication of dissatisfaction among the electorate with the presidential candidates and the campaign. Over 200,000 ballots were spoiled, with the highest level recorded in Dublin North West. An Comisiún Tábhachtán has said there will be a need for deeper and further reflection on why so many people deliberately chose this action.
A protest vote on a historic scale. The 2025 presidential election has seen over 200,000 people registering their distrust of the political system. with voters citing a motley of reasons for this deliberate action.
The choice that was there didn't suit us, we spoiled the vote.
I just voted for Maria Steen, Boho number 1. It's a protest to tell the government that they shouldn't be selecting who we choose. We should choose them.
I gave Gavin to upset the books.
So you gave Jim Gavin your number 1? Why?
Just upset the whole system for him.
Many ballot papers cited immigration or crime. Some even offered alternative candidates, including Maria Steen, who fell just short of the threshold for nomination.
Some of these voters are really very angry indeed. They're not homogenous either. You seem to have a group in there, perhaps you might call them the Catholic right, but there's also a much, it would seem, bigger group of spoiled votes that we saw today that had very strong anti-immigrant sentiment.
Businessman Declan Ganley, who was part of the Spoil the Vote campaign, said today that people chose this action because they were not motivated by the debate or the competition. Others said the choice was too limited.
It is a political earthquake. It is a two fingers to the political establishment by a chunk of people who feel that they're excluded from the political system in this country. And we in Aintu have said loud and clear over the last number of weeks that the election was far too narrow.
There is already discussion on whether the nomination criteria should be relaxed, with Taoiseach Micheál Martin acknowledging that it may be too restrictive. As the political system digests this new level of disconnection and anger among the electorate. Sandra Hurley, RTE News.
Let's talk to our political correspondent, Paul Cunningham, who's standing by at Dublin Castle for us. So a really stunning victory for Catherine Connolly, Paul. As we heard her say in her speech there, she's pledged to be inclusive and a president for all.
It is a stunning victory. I mean, the very idea that she got 63% of the vote, more than 900,000 first preference, it's not just historic, but also gives her a very strong mandate for the next 7 years. And the fact that turnout was higher this time than in 2018 is also a boon for her. From the report there, you saw an awful lot of the left-wing party leaders who supported her. They were very much in evidence here at Dublin Castle today, effectively a visual representation, they say, that they've managed to work together for the presidency and they can do it again in any election, any further election. Now, we'll probably get a test of that in Galway West, probably in May, when Catherine Connolly vacates her seat as she's becoming president itself. Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael highly sceptical that you can replicate what happens in a presidential election in a general election, but we'll have to wait and see. The President, Michael D. Higgins, said tonight that he called Catherine Connolly, that he was in touch with her, he wanted to congratulate her on what was a momentous day for her and for her family, and he said he and his office would do anything they possibly could to smooth that entry of her heading to Áras and Uachtaráin.
And there are challenges ahead for her though, Paul. How can we expect Catherine Connolly to set the tone for what she stands for?
Yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting to see how that goes. On the one hand, she says that she's going to be an inclusive president. She repeated today what she said yesterday, which is that she will represent those who voted her and those who didn't vote for her. And yet at the same time, she also says that she's going to be true to those campaign themes like climate action, which she raised on the campaign trail. She said that she would consider issues and then she would speak when necessary. But I think she already raised one, and we can see that's going to be an issue at some stage. She said, I will be a voice for peace, a voice that builds on our policy of neutrality. That's very true to her, but also puts her on a collision course with a government which wants to change the triple lock. So that is the challenge for her. But today is just about her victory, a stunning victory. All
right, Paul Cunningham at Dublin Castle, thank you. Well, as Michael D. Higgins prepares to move out of Áras and Uachtaráin, it was clear from early on today that Catherine Connolly, a fellow Galway politician, would be moving in. Our regional reporter, Theresa Mannion, has been gauging reaction in her home county.
From early morning, the tallies show the scale of the picture emerging when the first city boxes were opened in Galway West. They included 2 from Shatila, where she grew up and learned to master those keepy-uppies. Catherine Connolly was receiving up to 90% of first preference votes, a pattern that was replicated in box after box. Before midday, Catherine Connolly dropped by the Count Centre in Salt Hill, where she greeted well-wishers and supporters and spoke briefly to the media.
We're alive, all of us, and that's certainly a cause for celebration, isn't it? And maybe we'll have a second cause for celebration, East Jenny, later.
By lunchtime, it was clear that Catherine Connolly was on course to become President of Ireland.
I never thought we would see the day we would have a president from roots from Connemara, and it's a proud day for Connemara. today that Catherine Connolly will be the next president.
Well, look, I think we saw like two very clear messages. One was about status quo and one was about change. And I think young people we see, if we don't get change in this country, there's going to be no country for us.
I think Catherine is an inspiration to all women, and I'm delighted. She's only 3 months old. I'm delighted that she's going to grow up with a president being a woman, and such a sincere, genuine and strong woman.
Catherine Connolly likes to swim in the sea and is no stranger to the Salt Hill prom.
So delighted with the news that she's gotten the presidency, and we both voted for her, so...
Yeah. And you've both just been swimming in the sea?
Yeah.
She loves to swim herself.
She does, yeah. She does, yeah.
Did the young vote help?
I would say we did, yeah. Definitely, I'd say so.
We're just heading down now to the Salt Hill Hotel to celebrate with some of our more ardent supporters. And we brought a rainbow with us, which is kind of a special tribute to her success.
And Catherine's so wonderful. She's done so much for the whole country, not just Galway.
Tonight, the party continues. Theresa Mannion, RTE News, Salt Hill, Galway.
Catherine Connolly has won the presidential election on a record 63% of the vote. The new President of Ireland will, of course, have to deal with many challenges over her 7-year term. Conor Hunt has been looking at some of the issues that await Catherine Connolly as 10th President of Ireland.
It is the highest office in the land, and soon it will have a new occupant. Briefings aplenty and a full in-tray awaits. One of the first and immediate matters will be her appointments to the Council of State and her inauguration speech, a chance to set out the theme of her presidency.
A very important speech, sets the tone for the new president's agenda. It's an opportunity, I think, to say what the president's priorities will be, what their beliefs are, what their principles are, what they aspire Ireland to be. It's really up to them. It's a blank sheet of paper.
President Higgins showed he had few qualms about speaking up. The question, will our next president follow suit? With issues like housing and neutrality likely to remain to the fore, her relationship with the government will always be closely watched for any hints of criticisms or slights. A significant part of the job is, of course, representing Ireland abroad. So too is hosting, opening up the Áras to local visitors. And there'll be foreign dignitaries too. None come bigger than the US president. Any visit to the Áras will be a high-level affair. The question of a united Ireland looks set to grow louder over the next 7 years. What role the new president plays in that conversation will be likely scrutinised.
So the debate over the United Ireland, it's not going to go away, because there are calls now north and south for it. Now, whether it is a vote that will happen over the term of the new president is slightly doubtful, because it will take a bit of time to get the homework together, to get the sentiment right on both sides. But it is an issue that is going to continue.
A new president, many matters will come across her desk over the next 7 years. Conor Hunt, RTE News.
Let's talk to our political correspondent, Micheál Lehane, who's here. We talked earlier about the tone that Catherine Connolly will set as president. She will also have her own distinctive style, won't she, Micheál?
She will. And I think, like all things with Catherine Connolly, it is thought out and considered. And she spoke about that in that first speech again tonight, the importance of listening and considering before speaking. So I think there is going to be more of that. But of course, when she does make the speeches, they are possibly going to be interesting. But she has consistently, again today and during the campaign, spoken about the parameters of the role, and indeed turning to her supporters tonight. She spoke about them having to take up the cudgel now and continue the job, she said, of asking constructive questions of the democracy and of the Republic, saying that was necessary. So I think already she's sending out a signal that there is only so much she can do. Nonetheless, this is going to be a president for all, she says, and someone who will give a voice to those who need it the most. I think too, when it comes to state visits and people visiting here, she has alluded to that during the campaign, saying that these things are often just courtesy calls, and big issues, maybe things like if the US president were to come, could the issue of genocide be on the agenda? She didn't think it would be. So there is an awareness of the constrictions of the role from Catherine Connolly. But I think at the same time, when it comes to her speeches and when it comes to her regular contact with the Taoiseach, this is someone who will, as she has exuded throughout her career and the campaign, speak in a steadfast, determined manner.
All right, Micheál Lehane, thank you.